This is my fine china. Yes, bask, take it in. This is how I hydrate with only the finest. Oh, I'm early. I'm not early. I'm actually right on time. I believe it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to be talking about One Piece stuff. Maybe I'll have someone pop in if they have the time. Unsure. But it's mostly just going to be me yapping about One Piece. We're in Elbaph right now in the manga, chapter 1190. Oof, 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 oof. Things have been crazy. One Piece has been crazy. I I just want to share it with everybody. It's crazy. I don't want to be. Chloe tells me, my wife tells me, I give cult vibes whenever I bring up One Piece, and unfortunately, there is truth to it. It's a magical story, and I'm just so invested. And I not that I didn't used to be. Well, I guess I didn't used to be interested in the politics of the real world, but not just because of One Piece. But One Piece definitely helped me understand how important politics are in society. It's not just something I can. It's not just something I can brush off. It's not something I can just ignore. It's something that's happening everywhere, even if I don't want to see it. And it's a wonderful. It's a wonderful story. I've grown as a person reading it and watching it. I watched it. My personal One Piece journey. My younger brother Chance was pestering me for the longest time to watch One Piece, and I kept turning him down. And I was like, "I'll watch it if you watch Dragon Ball Z," in which he still won't watch. But uh, I eventually caved. Chance kept asking me, and I was like, "Fine, I'll watch it." And I remember starting it, and I was watching it at like 1.5, 2 times speed at the beginning because I once I made it past like Baratier area, I was just committed to catching up. But once I made it to Alabasta, I definitely realized I have to take this in. Like I'm not going to have this forever. Because while I didn't love Alabasta, Alabasta's a good arc. I didn't love the Vivi in the middle of all of the Alabasta. Vivi's great. Oh, hello, friend. Hello, Bella Camacho. N8T. I was just yapping about One Piece and my personal journey with One Piece. How my younger brother recommended it to me, and at first I was watching it at like 2 times speed because I just kind of wanted to get through it. And I hit around Alabasta, which is like 100-ish episodes mark, and I realized that I'm not gonna. I'm like, dang, I'm a tenth through One Piece because it was at 1,000 episodes at the time, and I realized how quickly I made it through the 100 episodes. And granted, it was probably like uh, I I watched maybe the first 100 episodes of One Piece in maybe a month, and I was like, that didn't take very long at all. And so I stopped speeding through it. I started actually like locking in and watching One Piece, and we get from Alabasta to Jaya, and then from Jaya to Skypiea, and then from Skypiea we fall back down, and then we head towards is not Enies Lobby. Then we head towards the Davy back fights. Foxy, long ring, long land. We head to Foxy. Oh, I have a Foxy back here. He's beautiful. Here's Foxy. I also have I have Afro Luffy and Foxy. They're locked in internal battle back here. They're doing important things while I'm doing important things. But I just got further and further into One Piece, and I realized how special of a story it was. And while at first my first big three anime I got into was Bleach. I was really into Bleach. I didn't really care about Naruto. I played the games. My brothers and I had like Clash of Ninja Revolution, and we got into the Ninja Storm games when my oldest brother got an Xbox or PlayStation. I can't remember, but we got to the Ninja Storm like 3, Ninja Storm 4. Those games are peak. I used Sage Naruto a lot. I used like 3 4 different characters. The Ninja Storm games rocked, so I got the general gist of what was happening in Naruto. But out of the big three, I ignored One Piece. I played Naruto games and I I watched Bleach. I really enjoyed Bleach from start to finish, and then eventually Chance got me to watch One Piece. I've just started watching Naruto. I know the main story beats of Naruto, from the start to the end, and I picked up the manga around the Great War. I didn't pick it up. I was like looking at it when the Great War was happening, but I picked it up and I put it. I didn't really care. I read Boruto, and again, I don't super care, but I will. I have been watching what's happening in Boruto, and Boruto's gone left field. It's crazy. It's really funny. JJK ends, and then there's JJK Modulo. Spoilers. I'm not going too hard, but spoilers. JJK Modulo. It's like JJK Ball Z aliens show up, and I was like, oh, all right, wizards versus aliens. And then in Boruto, at the end of Naruto, ninjas and then aliens show up, and I was like, oh, okay. And now Boruto's dealing with aliens, and I was like, okay. I got really sidetracked. One Piece. I love One Piece as a series, as a franchise, and I've been loving the manga. I love the manga so much. I feel like a drug addict sometimes because I'm sitting there like, dang, when's the next chapter of One Piece coming out? And these break weeks have been brutal because we had last week's chapter, there was a break before that, then there's last week's chapter, and then there's the break before that, there's the last chapter, and there was a break before that, and I'm like, I'm going crazy. There are chapter breaks in between the Brooks flashback. It's just been rough, but I'm still loving it. I'm loving everything that's been happening in Elbaph. Emu's arrived. We see who Emu is. Incredible. His design's immaculate. He's so scary. I'm afraid of him so much, but he has so much aura. And Emu's design is so cool with his weapon. Blah blah blah. The manga's been peak. And then I've been seeing bits and pieces of the anime. I haven't been watching it like week to week, but every other week I'll pick up and I'll catch up. It looks beautiful. But no, I made a list. I wrote down a list of how do I feel about Elbaph as a whole, like an elementary schooler. I've been loving Elbaph. I made a video sometime last year, and I titled it Hellbath because the Holy Knights had showed up and they started turning people into demons, and shit just started going crazy. And I was like, "What's going on?" But I've really been loving Elbaph. I'm a glazer. I love One Piece period. So these arc to arcs, like people have issues with Egghead. I thought Egghead was phenomenal. Uh people had issues with the start of Elbaph, but I love it even more now because it was kind of foreshadowing. We're fighting gods this arc. We're entering God Piece because this is where we are in Elbaph. Well, we get the sun god. We get hints towards the force god. Maybe Chopper. I don't know. We got introduced to an emu properly. He has shown up. We're dealing with the Holy Knights. We've learned about Elbaph used to be a person. He might have been the god of war, unsure. Like, oh, the start of Elbaph is so much cooler now that I recognize that. Oh, it was a it was a diorama of what Elbaph was going to be. A tableau. That's the right word. It was a tableau of what Elbaph was going to devolve into. But I really like that. I really like the themes of kind of like brotherhood that Elbaph's been holding to. Like we have the brotherhood of Loki and Hajruden. We have a brotherhood of Roxy Zebek and Harald. Um, we have the we have the brotherhood of maybe Nika, not Nika, maybe Joy Boy and Emu. They clearly had a relationship. I don't know what the relationship was, but they clearly had one. Um, there have been a lot of parallels about brotherhood, and if not just brotherhood, like family in general, and love has been a really big thing. Like Gabon was introduced. We love Gabon. Scopper was introduced, and he's the Minister of Love. And he talks about how anyone can love who they want because that's what freedom is. And freedom is being able to love who you want is a kind of freedom, which is really nice. And we have Scopper, the Mountain Eater, married to a giant. That's very inappropriate. But we have Scopper Gabon, the Mountain Eater, and he's in love with a giant, and he had a child. And there are all these. We've learned about, I can't remember their names. It was like Dosundadas, Zushing Dodos, blah blah blah. We learned about there are a number of races that have been wiped out, and I'm sure that races have just been going at it with one another to create all these strange species that we see in One Piece, and the world government doesn't seem to like that, so they don't get to do that. And having an oppressive power have control over not just freedom, but concepts like love and concepts like who am I allowed to be with? That's a very deep thing. That's a very modern problem that we have, and it's interesting that One Piece tackles it. But we have a finger to point to. There are fingers to point to in real life, but blah blah blah. There are these parallels, not parallels, but there are these themes of love throughout Elbaph, and like parental love with Scopper and his kids. Um, Parental love. Last arc, we saw Dragon talking about uh, parents' greatest weakness is their child, and we have Kuma on the island. He's not doing anything right now. I hope Kuma's okay. I don't. I can't get behind the people that are like, yeah, Kuma should have died. Whoa, he was a slave, and he did a lot of horrible. He had to put up with a bunch of awful stuff, and he saved Jenny. And I don't appreciate if he just dies. Like I think he deserves some sort of happiness. Uh, Kuma went through all this crazy stuff, and he literally gave his body up to turn into a robot to save his daughter. Like it's crazy that people are like, yeah, he should die. I'm like, no, he should. Well, there's stories about freedom. There's stories about people talk. Oh, it does frustrate me. I've seen on the internet talks about how it's not edgy enough, and not that it's not edgy enough. There's no suspense. There are no consequences. They live in a world with slavery and stuff. Like, cool. Luffy doesn't kill these characters, and we're not killing people. But if we are taking part in this world, we live somewhere where very plausibly we haven't seen Arlong in a long time. Maybe Arlong's a slave somewhere. Like we could take people off. People show up, abduct people. People show up, put targets on them and hunt them for sport. People just show up and do crazy stuff. And this world is the suspense to me. Like they're all we just watched Lelouch get blown up. Like there are consequences. Oh, we don't know any of those characters. It's crazy that there's a world power that has the ability to do stuff like that and just sweep it under the rug. And if that's not suspense enough for you, it makes me feel like maybe you're jaded about it because you've spent so much time in this world. Since we've spent so much time in this world, I feel like you should be. I don't know. I'm getting off topic, but there are all sorts of themes about love in Elbaph and who should be allowed to love what and what love is, which I really appreciated, and I'm really excited to see what Sanji's gonna do. Sanji's gonna get Conqueror's Haki. That's gonna. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Sanji to have Conqueror's Haki. What else? What else? Elbaph. Oh, there have been a lot of flashbacks in Elbaph, and I think it's gonna read phenomenally whenever we reach the whenever we reach the point where I can sit down and read all of Elbaph. Once Elbaph completes itself, once Elbaph finishes, I'll be able to read it all in just a one go, and I think Elbaph is going to read phenomenally. I think these flashbacks have been put in very, very well, and I'm really interested to see how I feel reading back in going to the Brook flashback because I was also excited to get the Brook flashback, but it's in the middle of Loki clashing with HImu, and I was like, "This is a crazy place to go. Let's get a Brook flashback." Peak flashback. It's fine. There we met another Holy Knight. Screw those guys. Freaking the Holy Ropo. They'll never dodge that allegation. I think Holy Ropo is probably the funniest. I think the Holy Ropo is probably the funniest insult I've seen from the One Piece community. It's magical. Yes, but I've enjoyed the flashbacks. I love meeting Harold. We met Rocks in a flashback in Elbaph. I was like, what? I was like, Rocks to the mech. Seeing the Rocks Pirates was peak. What else is there? Elbaf's just been a roller coaster. Not that I don't care about the kids. In Elbaph, I don't care about. Not that I don't care about the kids. I'm least attached to that plot line, but I am attached to Ripley and seeing Ripley. Whenever Ripley went to hold Colin, and Colin was covered in invisible spikes, and she wrapped herself around him because he's about to walk off a cliff, and she was like, "If you're going out, you shouldn't have to go out alone." And she's embracing her child, and they fall off a cliff, and I was like, "This is hitting me. This is making me feel." So while I don't care about the kids of Elbaph, I do care about Ripley, that big sexy lady. But yeah, I'm sorry. So I care about the kids in that respect. I've been in whole Elbaph's been great. The Elbaph arc has been so good. I'm so happy I caught up with One Piece and I'm reading it week to week. But on Elbaph there are the Giants, and the Giants of Elbaph have been kind of hit and miss for me. I'm kind of curious why more Giants aren't using hockey. I've seen Saul use hockey. I've seen Dorian Brogy use hockey. I believe so. I think we've seen Hajruden use hockey. We've seen Loki use hockey. I don't even think we saw. Oh no, we saw Harold use the hockey. But yeah, there are a lot of characters that just aren't using hockey, and I'm like, okay, I guess they're not warrior people. They're not a warrior race anymore, so they haven't had to fight in a while. And Harald was like defanging Elbaph as a whole, so a lot of people. But it's connected to willpower, so I'm like, how come Ripley didn't use hockey whenever she was trying to defend Colin and them? I don't know. The use of hockey has been scattered throughout the Giants, and I'm like, so are you guys like that? Are you guys not like that? Are you guys fodder, just a little bigger? They're not fodder, but the one who's not fodder is Loki. Loki's a tank. Loki's been stabbed by like 3 or 4 weapons, and he just keeps getting up. And I'm like, dang. And Luffy. I'm so excited. Uh, I'm very excited for the Elbaph report cards. There's a meme. It's probably one of my favorite memes I've seen that's come out of the One Piece community. Someone makes report cards for each big character in each One Piece arc, and there's one for Egghead, there's one for Wano, there's one for Whole Cake, I think. There are a number of them, and I'm really excited to see the Elbaph one because Luffy's about to get torn up. I also subscribe to the theory. Um, I'll, I'm sure people have said this in passing, but I've been thinking about the whole. In Impel Down, we saw a bunch of the guards that were weird animal people, and it's explained to us in Impel Down that the animal guards were Zoan who awakened Zoans who lost control to the animal inside. And I was like, ooh, that's crazy. And I think we get some more talk about it with Lucci whenever Lucci awakens his Zoan. In the SBS for One Piece, Oda answers a question about Lucci's Zoan awakening, and it has something to do with he has all of his senses are like dialed up because he's a leopard person and like the bloodlust and stuff like that. And it's a miracle that Loki. It's a miracle that Lucci wasn't overtaken by the Zoan awakening. And I'm thinking Luffy, as soon as he awoke his dough fruit, and I do quotes, I assume Gear Fifth is awakening. Once he got Gear Fifth, the more he's been using it, the more it seems like a drug. The more it seems like something that I could believe that Luffy is not in 100% control when he's using Gear Fifth because he's giving in to how great it feels to be free. And whenever like Vegapunk dies, like, Vegapunk died in front of Luffy. Luffy's like giggling and goofing about like right above him. And I was like, damn, Luffy. But I think it's because of the intoxicatingness of free. Like he's literally bursting with freedom and like imagination. So it's probably easy for him to like set aside the things that are happening right in front of him, which is why this chapter 1190 was so crazy. Whenever we got Scopper Gamon pulled up to help Luffy. Luffy was stabbed to a tree by 2 big swords by the King of the World, HImu, and Luffy had to be reminded that he's a Yonko. Yeah, that's cool. He beat Kaido. Yeah, that's cool. They're bigger fish in the sea. And I was like, oh no, because Luffy had a poor showing against HImu. It was such a sad showing. He turned into a genie, and I was like, I remember I was reading it and I was slapping on my phone, and whenever he started to do a genie, I'm like, did I miss a page? I swipe back. I'm like, no, it goes down. It says gum gum. Emu's looking, and then genie. I was like, what? I didn't. I'm not a genie hater, but it was he fumbled. Luffy fumbled the match. Like he, they were expecting such great things that he did very very poorly. Bad showing from Luffy's part. Oh, but I'm gonna talk about how I feel about some of these flashbacks in Elbaph right now. In Elbaph, the big flashbacks we've gotten Harold's flashback, we've gotten Brooks' flashback, the God Valley flashback was in there, and I know the God Valley flashback is a part of the Harold flashback. Rocks was a part of the Harold and God Valley flashback. God Valley was insane. I remember I was talking to my wife about it. Chloe doesn't really do One Piece, but I was talking to her about it anyways, and I was saying I had heard some YouTuber talk about asking yourself and others, what are you staying with One Piece for? Like, what's like the big mystery you're looking forward to? And I was like, what is the big mystery I'm looking forward to? It was God Valley. It was all these old gens, all these old heads. They're like, well, back in my day, we were walking 40 miles in the snow uphill while I don't know King Kong was invading. That's the first thing that popped in my mind. I don't know, but they claim to have had it rough and that they're like big dogs. And I wanted to see it. I was like, okay, what happened? I was like, tell me, show me. And we also heard in Wano that Rox was at God Valley. We learned that Kaido and Big Mom were on Rox's crew, and Rox was their captain. You're like, whoa, who was Rox? In this flashback, and it's such a crazy flashback. Whenever we hard cut, Emu has shown up in the Gods Knights upstairs in Elbaph, and they're like, "That's some preposterous hockey." And then Loki's like, "I've got a story to tell you guys." And Luffy's like, "Okay, I'll listen. I'm listening." Said Luffy never, and Luffy leans into this flashback to find out about the worst day of Loki's life, and we see King Harold for the first time properly, and he's being skewered by his guards, and Loki's like, "What's going on?" And then it takes you back even further, and then we get King Harold's flat. We get King Harold from the beginning. He used to be like a stuck-up brat, and he was roaming the seas because he's an ancient giant. He's bigger than everybody else. He pulls up on an island. It was there's a funny picture of he's picking his nose and he flicks it into the water because he's on a boat, and his booger is so big that it launches a shark out of the water. And I was like, like that's ridiculous. But Harold shows up on this island. There's a giant woman that's in a cage, and she's like, ah, and Harold's like, I'm the man for this, and he shows up and wrecks the place and gets the girl. He's like, oh, you don't have to thank me or anything, and then it's Ida. She freaks out and she's like, "You didn't even ask those people what they were doing. Like you didn't even try to figure out what the situation was. You just showed up and tore the place down." And she was helping those people lure in some tourism or something. And Ida basically drills into Harold's mind that just because he is big doesn't mean he can just do what he wants. And that hit home. There's a singular frame of Harold, and he's like, and I'm like, oh dang. I was like, no one's ever spoken to him like this. But that was funny. And he goes back, he helps them out, and then he 180s and he becomes a good person. We get to watch him grow as a king. We get to watch him have Hajruden, and then the freaking Gorosei of Elbaph. There are these unseen old people who are keeping Harold from marrying the woman he loved because she was not of Elbaph. And Ida was like, "That's cool. I'll just hang out by the shore as long as I have you nearby." And Hajruden's here. It's all good. And I'm like, no. I was like, Harold should have. Oh, it's one of the menus of Harold should have done something, and that's the hardest part about the entire Harold flashback. I, whenever I reread, like I said, once I reread Elbaph, it's gonna read peak because I'm gonna be like Harold, no, and I'm gonna be like Harold, no. I'm like no, and that's gonna be that's gonna be me the entire flashback. But it's fun to watch him. He's trying to do the right thing, but he's trying to make deals and partnerships with people who he shouldn't be making deals and partnerships with people, and it's just hard to watch. And his only true friend is a pirate in Roxy Zebek, and you're like Roxy Zebek, and he pulls up and assaults Loki in the underworld. I was like, what? And he shows up. It's the coolest panel because he shows up and he's like, I've got two things to ask. Um, he's like, where is this Elbaph? And some I can't remember. He had two questions because it was a cool panel, and I just remember if one of the questions was, "Is this Elbaph?" And I think he's looking for the king, and he's looking for the king of Elbaph, and if this is Elbaph, or vice versa. I don't care. I'm sorry. And Loki in the underworld. Oh yeah, we get to see Loki, a child, yeet himself off a cliff because his mom doesn't love him, and I was like, dang, that's tough. I remember whenever we saw Loki for the first time with his bandaged eyes, everyone, the community was like, what are his powers? Because he could clearly see Luffy and Shamrock and Gunko, but he was blindfolded. So everyone's like, wow, he has good observation hockey, but what's special about those eyes? And we get to the flashback. We meet Harold's worst wife, Ella. I can't even remember her name. I'm not gonna remember her name because Estrid, his wife Estrid, and they have baby. They have Loki. She births Loki. Loki has funky eyes, and she yeets him out the window. Defenestrate is the correct term, and he's yeeted out into literally off a cliff into the underworld of Elbaph. And I was like, well, what are we doing? He kills a bear while he's out there, which was a crazy feat for a newborn. But he's an ancient giant newborn. But he's thrown off, and then we see him climbing up as a baby, and it's a really sad scene. And we get to see a toddler Loki yeet himself off, and I think the title of the chapter was like "I Can't Even Die," and it was him trying to kill off himself, and he was a child. He didn't get enough attention. Harold was never there. Harold was trying to make peace for the Giants elsewhere, and it was just it was horrible. Like I said, I'm really excited to reread Elbaph once it's completed. The flashbacks were great. We were introduced to Rocks. We were introduced to Harold. We get to learn more about the Holy Knights. He becomes a Holy Knight for a while. We see that Shanks is in the Holy Land with Shamrock and the Forgarlands, and I was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Why is Shanks here?" And it blows my mind that we still haven't seen Mihawk. Like, where was Mihawk? I'm just waiting. Mihawk is an important character. He's the character Zora's trying to surpass. He used to be a marine hunter. He's under an emperor right now, Emperor Buggy. Buggy might get the One Piece. I feel like it'd be really funny if Buggy got the One Piece. But the flashbacks in Elbaph have been wonderful. Wunderbar. There are stocks. There's a One Piece stock market, and the flashbacks to God Valley mucked up Roger. Roger's stocks have plummeted, and I'm like, this is stupid. I was like, Roger's the king of the pirates. He found the One Piece. He's top dog, and all these people are pushing him down because he's gooning over Shaki and stuff. But how I've always thought about it, I think it's insane that Roger, the future king of the pirates, Roger, he was able to keep up with the top dogs of that era, Rocks and Garp, while being a goofball. Like his heart wasn't even in it, and he still had hands on par with Garp. Garp pulls up to God Valley, and you want to know who runs away? I'll give you 3 options. Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard. Whitebeard Mister never turns his back in battle, turned his back to Garp. That sounds like upscale. I don't know how, but it's got to be Mihawk upscale or something. The God Valley flashback was incredible. It's what I wanted out. It's what I've been wanting out of One Piece, and it did not disappoint. Maybe maybe one day I'll just make a video where I talk about the God Valley incident. It was peak. It was peak. Dragon was there. Dragon's never anywhere. He had lines. He had opinions. Oh, Dragon. Monkey D. Dragon. I'm gonna go to the next topic. How do I feel about the Holy Knights? Holy Knights. Holy Ropo. I'm sorry. I've been yapping for a while. The Holy Knights on Elbaph. In One Piece, there's a faction named the Holy Knights. They serve the god. And there's a really metal line that was dropped recently to Loki. It was HImu talking to Loki, and HImu talks about his powers and how Omen is his dominion, is his military might, and how he makes contracts with people in exchange for power. And Loki's like, that kind of sounds like the devil. And HImu drops God or devil. Is there a difference? And I'm like, dang, that's hard. And it's really, really cool because they're both celestial figures of great power, and they can manipulate one to even. It's cool. I do like the Holy Knights. I like the Holy Knights as a faction, and it's crazy. I cannot wait for the excuse as to why we have not seen a Holy Knight in the series yet, because there's going to be an excuse, and I won't mind it. I'm ready for whatever it's going to be, because we've made it really far into this series, and ain't one Holy Knight we've seen. And it's cool that we're learning through Brook's flashback. Brook encountered the Holy Knight, so I'm like, oh, I was like, we do have a tether to the Holy Knight. We actually have a tether. We have two tethers to the Holy Knights, and in Brook, in Gunko, and then with Luffy and Shanks, because Shanks is a celestial dragon, which is crazy. I do believe that Shanks is a D. I think Shanks is a D. Shanks is a celestial dragon, which makes him like the super secret juice. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of that thought. Of the Holy Knights, I've really been enjoying Gunko. Gunko has had the second coolest. I'm sorry, gotta start at the top. Shanks, not Shanks. Shamrock. Shamrock and that Cerberus blade, crazy. First stab to Loki on Elbaph, and I still don't know how I feel. That's a lie. I do know how I feel. Shamrock was like, "You can come and find me if you want afterwards, but it's gonna end up the same way." And I was like, "Oh, that's a crazy thing to say to Loki, ancient giant who killed Holy Knight Herald. Crazy." And that's a. But after I've seen these Omen upscales with Somers fighting Zoro, Somers and Zoro clashed. Zoro used the same attack that beat King, and Somers freaking parried it, and I was like, "Oh no!" He didn't just parry; he like blasted him back. He knocked him back, and I was like, "Well, oh no!" And Somers, not Somers. Back to Shamrock. Shamrock, I'm really afraid of because I fear that he himself is really strong, but as soon as Shamrock gets an Omen upgrade, I'm afraid. Like, is it going to be Shamrock versus Shanks? Is Dragon finally going to do something? I'm carrying on. Shamrock, Gunko's been really cool. I really like her arrow powers, and I like the mysteriousness around her and how she ties to Brook. I'm really attached to this Brook, Brook relationship. Sidetrack to Brook, whenever I saw his flashback and he was like partying in the trash yard, he was partying in the dump as a little orphan child, but like getting crunk, I was like, damn, he was really made for Luffy. Like Kid Luffy and Kid Brook, they would have been the bestest of friends. And it's probably good that they weren't on the same islands or born at the same time, because they would have never left their. They probably would have left the island, but like they would have just been hanging out together forever. But Gunko's been cool. Somers has been a delight. He's evil. He's comedically evil. I love how the Holy Knights pulled up literally with brunch. They're like, "Really? We gotta do this right now? We need a meal." And so as they're concocting their evil plan while passing tea and crumpets, they're like, "Yes, and we shall make a game out of enslaving the children." Oh yeah, of course, of why not? And I don't know. It was just crazy. I do like Somers. He's really funny, and it's crazy that everyone expected Somers to be a Sanji opponent, but it's been flipped. Somers is the Zoro opponent, and it's really clever because he's literally the opposite of Sanji, and then we have Zoro, who's Sanji's counterpart, and it really surprised I think it surprised the entire community. We were all expecting him to fight Killingham, but it's Somers, and Somers seems to have, with his Omen buff, it's crazy. He seems to be at least above Yonko Commander. Crazy thing to think about. He was fun in God Valley too. He was sick, twisted. He had little spikes under children, and there's a family hiding in the trees, and there he had spikes underneath them. He's like, "All right, you're gonna fall eventually," and then they fell into the spikes, and he's like, "Oh, of course." I was like, "No," "Oh, these guys suck." I was like, "These guys are the worst." Oh, and not the fraudulent Holy Knight squad up whenever Garland, Garland was like, "To me, my Holy Knights," and they all squatted up for the group picture, and then I didn't see any of them after that. I saw Garland get chopped up by rocks. Rocks went out dirty. They did him nasty. Summers, Killingham. I really like Killingham. Killingham's dragon, his Kieran form is probably one of my favorite designs for out of Oda in quite some time. I love that Kieran design. And then whenever he turns into his human counterpart, I was like, oh, the pointy teeth, and he's little little e boy. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I see you, Killingham. And it's funny that Killingham might be racist against fish people, even though he has fish people traits. And I'm like, you're a fish man, aren't you, Killingham? But the celestial dragons are monsters. The Holy Knights in One Piece have been a treat, and I'm so excited to see more of them. I'm so excited to see the we've been getting the fodder Holy Knights. I want to see who the top dogs are. Who because I assume not that I assume Shamrock is the commander of the Holy Knights, and we know previously Garling was the supreme commander. So is there someone above Is there someone above Shamrock's level? And then who else is around Shamrock level? Just excited. The Holy Knights, like I said, they have been a delight. Ugh. Now, what about Emu? I've Emu is great. Emu's been amazing. His stupid little cloaked form. I've been the stupid parrot theory that's been going around. It's ridiculous. He's not a parrot, and if he is a parrot, I'm gonna lose my mind. And that's what I love about One Piece. This stupid Emu is a parrot theory. It's so stupid, but not stupid enough to not be in something that comes out of One Piece. Because I've seen everything. I watched some guy pull noodles out of his nose and fight Sanji. Like, so there's one of the first people they meet is some dude that fell into a treasure chest and he's stuck in the treasure chest. He's like, no, this is life now. And then he meets a woman stuck in a barrel, and they're like, no, we're married now. Like, this place makes no sense. There's no logic here. So if Emu did turn out to be a parrot, I don't know. I don't know, man. But aside from that, Emu's like shadow form. We've seen him since chapter 9, whatever. We met him in the Reverie stuff, or saw him. And it's to finally get a picture for Emu, to finally get to finally get a solid thing for Emu has been really cool. His design, a lot of people have compared him to like Madara Kaguya stuff, and that's cool, I guess. But I've been I'm in the One Piece trenches. I don't care about that Naruto stuff. And he clearly seems to be some sort of amalgamation of stuff. He seems to either be an alien, literally an alien, because Scopper goes, you don't even look like you're from this mortal realm. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's fair. I was like, he looks, and he like, so he's either actually an alien, actually a devil, or he's just like a mashup of a bunch of different stuff. Because he seems to be sporting a lot of Elbaph drip. He has the horns and he has his pants stuff going on. Seems kind of Elbaphy, and I'm like, are you like, is this a statement? Are you making fun of us? Are you like culturally appropriating just because you're that much of an asshole? Like I don't know. I don't understand him. It was cold. He showed up. He was already bleeding, and then he speed blitzes a bunch of people. I really like his halberd weapon. I think that's what it's called. Um, it's a halberd. It's a spear on one side. It's like a curved spear and a blade at the other side. He's just like twirling around, chopping people's fingers off, and I'm like, no. And then Hajruden's like, I've got this, and he did not have it. And then he had to get pushed out of the way. And then Hajruden's like, I've got this, and he did not have it. And then he gets blown up, and I was like, Hajruden, please. And speed blitzes a bunch of people. One taps Zoro, puts him down. One taps Sanji, puts him down. Something I don't think a lot of people noticed. I'm a Sanji glazer. I also love Zoro, but I am a Sanji stand. Sanji got back up. Sanji took that hit, got back up. When we see Zoro again, he is bandaged up. Tony Chopper got to Zoro, put him back on his feet. I'm sure Zoro would have been able to get back up, but he got help. And Sanji just got back up on his 2 feet. He looked badass while he was doing it. So I'm glad that I feel like Zoro got hype tooled for once. How does it feel, Zoro? Sanji gets hype tooled all throughout One Piece. It's your turn. And then we watch Emu. Then we watch Emu show up with the big dogs, and we see him fight with Loki. all of his moves have been awesome. He's shooting like Dragon Ball lasers, and I'm a big Dragon Ball stan, so I'm really appreciating all the laser. I'm like, oh, all right, we're doing this now, and they're just kind of he's flying. Loki's a dragon, so he's actually flying. Yeah, his design's so cool. I'm gonna pull up a picture of Emu, and I might just talk about his his design. Just look at it top down. There you are. Yeah, I really like, and I can't wait to get the colors on him. I like his long hair. I like the horns. He's those are just crazy eyes. I forgot about the skull. He has these skulls attached to him, Emu, and he had their horns, but they're also like tatted up, kind of like Kenjaku. And I'm like, what's that about? And he has the crazy omen ring behind him with the eyes on them that he pulls weapons out of, and I was like, that's crazy. Taking 101 said that it was a weapon wheel, and I was like, that's hilarious. It is a weapon wheel, and he's cycling through weapons and pulling things out, putting stuff away. And it's nasty. He's so cool. It's such a cool design. Dripping like literally literally just spewing Conqueror's hockey. Saint Nerani Emu. He's it makes me even more upset whenever I think about Emu and I think about Luffy's performance against him. Like, I know Gabon talked about how crazy his hockey was. Gabon was like, I've never felt anything like this. And even Luffy was like, this is suffocating. Like, this is crazy hockey. But Luffy still shows up and makes a fool out of himself. And it breaks my heart. But back to Emu. I've really enjoyed this. I do think Emu has a timer when he has to go home. I don't think there's a real timer. I think he could choose to not go back, but I think he is taking more damage the longer he's staying in the lower realm, and as long as he's taking more damage, not as long. I just think he is taking damage, and eventually he will leave because it's probably going to take a lot of time for him to heal from this encounter. I also think that there's weird time shenanigans stuff. Why haven't we seen stuff outside of Elbaph? Because we've seen so much. Egghead was crazy the amount of stuff we saw in and out of Elbaph. Wano, we got to see a lot of stuff in and out of Elbaph. Wano, we got to see a bunch of stuff in and out of Wano because of the Roger flashback. Egghead, we get to see a bunch of stuff in and out of Egghead with the flashback and seeing what other characters are up to in the world. Oh, and with Wano, we got the Reverie stuff, so we get to see what characters are doing around the world. So it's really crazy that we've been so isolated on Elbaph. So I don't know what's the whole land was on fire, and that's done now because Shamrock went back. How long did that take? What was happening? Who lit the fire? Emu's got a lot of aura. Emu's really cool. I like the design. He scares me. I'm really interested about his relationship with the Joy Boy. I like how he's literally just some old guy. He's Elbaph's just like the throwdown of old people because it's him and Gabon, and then there's Jarl, and then there's Harold. Harold wasn't even that old. It's old people piece now. These old people are throwing down. Emu's got dementia and he's tweaking out, and Gabon's trying to get our crackhead on his feet. So crackhead versus dementia patient. One Piece in a nutshell. Oh, Emu's been a blast. He's pulling out all these crazy weapons from his weapon wheel. They have ties to different real world mythologies. Like there's a weapon called Fragarak, and it has ties to Irish mythology. And there's the Blade of Longinus, which is the spear, or the Spear of Longinus, which is the spear that killed Jesus Christ, and like all sorts. Like he just pulling from stuff, and I was like, this is so peak. This is another reason One Piece is peak. There are so many mysteries. It's pause. I think it's crazy that we've learned so much about Emu, and we still know so little about Blackbeard. Why don't we know anything about Blackbeard? Blackbeard scares me right now. I'm a little more scared of Blackbeard than I am about Emu because we've been learning stuff about Emu, and I get it. The unstoppable god character. Well, Blackbeard stole dough fruit. We've been told he can't do that, and he did it all. He did it. He did it in front of us off screen. That's mean. Like, yeah, I can do it. Throws cover over Whitebeard. does suspicious things to Whitebeard under those covers, and then he has the Darkness fruit and the Quake fruit, and I was like, this is calamity. This is calamitous. This is awful. I was like, Blackbeard can't do that. And Blackbeard became an emperor right afterward. And Blackbeard took Hachinosu. Blackbeard has Garp right now. And one of my largest questions about One Piece in general, or Elbaph, is how's it ending? I don't know how. I cannot tell how Elbaph is going to end. Is this going to be a victory? Is this going to be a defeat? Are we headed somewhere directly after this? Are we going to have to recuperate for a little bit and then head out? Or where are we? Are we going to Lodestar next? Do we have to backtrack? Do we have to? Are we going straight to Laugh Tale? I don't believe we're going straight to Laugh Tale. But the way Oda did his little message thing, it has me thinking, well, like they're going to the island where only the Pirate King has been to, and I'm like, it better be Lodestar, but the answer seems to be Laugh Tale, but it needs to be Lodestar. We were told about Lodestar. Lodestar is the place you go before Lodestar is the end of the Grand Line, and then you have to figure out where Laugh Tale is. Himu's been great, and I'm really interested to see the mysteries and the little edgy emo stuff he's got going on. He literally pulls up these holy knights pull up in pentagrams circles, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable about this holy description. And he's a scary guy. Emu's a scary guy. I like him a lot. Moving on. How many chapters are left in Elbaph? I was curious. I'm like, how many chapters are left in Elbaph? There's a lot happening, and I don't know. Oda said it's supposed to be kind of abrupt how it finishes, and I know we're 1190. I think we're like 70ish chapters into Elbaph, and I'm thinking, do we have 30 chapters left of content of Elbaph? I want to say no. I don't think there are 30 whole chapters left in Elbaph, so I don't think we're making it to that would be 1220. I don't think we're making it 1220 in Elbaph. So 10 chapters, I think, is still a little too short. 15, I would say 15, but 15 depends upon, are we getting post Elbaph stuff, or are we headed straight out of Elbaph? Because if it's post Elbaph, I'd say 20. And I think 11, 10, 12, 10, about 12, 10, 12, 12, Elbaph is going to end. Because we have to wrap up this fight with Himu. We have to get Himu off of Elbaph. If Himu doesn't leave Elbaph, he's going to like cut down a tree or something. He's scaring me a lot. He has to get out of here. Sanji has to beat Sanji has to beat Killingham, get Conquerors. Zoro has to beat Sommers, improve his Conquerors. We're learning stuff about Robin took Chopper somewhere to learn stuff. Robin still needs to see the mural. Well, we haven't seen the Heaven Realm. We still need to get more Nika lore. Usopp hasn't gotten his moment yet. I have 8 important things, and Loki has to do. We haven't seen Loki's hybrid. 9 things, and I could probably sit here and keep going. Not as important of a thing, but we haven't gotten Loki's point of view with Lola, because we knew Lola and Loki were a thing, but then Lola wanted to be with her other man to be free. So that's just 10 things off the dome, and I feel like you can have a chapter explicitly about all those things. And I think the Zoro Sanji stuff is probably going to be more than one chapter of content. Beating Himu is going to be at least 5 more chapters of content. It depends how much we jump around. Like if it's just Himu-centric chapters, if it's just character versus Himu, 3 to 4 chapters. If it's character versus Himu, cut between stuff, then maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. Is Gabon going to survive? I think and believe Gabon's going to survive because this is a hopeful story. I know we're getting to the final war. People want stakes and stuff. Calm down. Well, it'll come. I'm sure Oda's going to murder some characters. It doesn't have to be Gabon. You're going to feel good about it for 2 seconds. And then whenever we get to the final war, and then like we see Rayleigh for a second, it's going to feel hollow. Because you're like, oh, Rayleigh lost all of his old people because they died. They were sent to the old folks' home. And Rayleigh's the only one that's hanging. The only one that's banging. And we'd be sad. So it's going to be nice to see Gabon and Rayleigh. whenever we reach the final war. It's gonna be so fun to see all these characters the Oda chose not to kill because they have greater purpose than dying. It's magical. It's incredible. It's ingenious. We will see Katakuri one day. I'm excited to see Katakuri one day. Maybe we'll see Yamato one day. I almost say Yamato. But yeah, I'd say 1212 is when Elbaph ends. Like we are off the coast of Elbaph. Chapter 1212. That is my vote right now. Cash it in. What else is on this list? Do you think we're leaving Elbaph this year? I don't. Oda's been going on breaks kind of crazy recently, and it's fine. I want him to be rested. I want him to spend time with his family. I want him to live as a human, but I also want this content. Yeah. Do I think it's gonna end this year? Okay, so like I said, I think Elbaph probably has 20ish more chapters, and if it has 20ish more chapters, we're definitely not getting out of it this year. If Elbaph has 10 more chapters, I still feel. Do I think we have 10 more chapters left in this year? I'm pulling up a calendar real quick. How many more chapters do I think? Because he's kind of been doing 3 in a row break week. And if we get ours next Sunday, that's the 23rd, I'd say one. Okay, that's one. 1, 2, 3, that's 2. I'm making myself look stupid. You can't trick me. I think maybe we can get like 10 chapters. I don't know. I don't think we're getting out of Elbaph this year. It would surprise me to no end if we've wrapped up the HImu stuff. Not wrapped up, but like he's off Elbaph. We get healed up. We learn lore. We get ourselves ready for the next island. We get upgrades to the Sunny, and we're on our way to Lodestar. I will be astounded if before Saint Nick visits me this year, and he will visit. I've been a good lad. I've been a good guy. Been a good boy. Been good. He will visit, and I will have the completed Elbaph to look at. I don't know. I don't think we're getting out of Elbaph. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. I think that would be ridiculous. Luffy versus HImu. Yes. Luffy had a really strong entrance. Sad fight afterwards. Luffy came in really strong. Came in swinging hockey, swinging the hands. Them some good hands. Boys throwing good hands. Gets there, tells Loki to sit down. Loki's like, "No, I'm that guy." He gets lasered. And I was like, "Oh." And I really like the stigma blade that HImu's been working with, and how Luffy's like, "Oh, I saw what happened to Loki." Yeet. And he continued to fight with him. There's a really fun stance that he has where the term was a marquee of saying like a wrestling match of blank versus blank. It was Saint Neroni, King of the World versus future King of the Pirates, and Luffy was stanced up a certain kind of way, and I was like, this is a very specific looking stance, and I'm curious if that was something Joy Boy. Was that how Joy Boy stanced up whenever he was ready to fight? It was just a really weird, particular stance he had going on. I don't know. But he gets to the fight. He turns to the genie because he can, and he gets mollywopped. He gets wiped, and then he gets crucified against a tree, and Gabon has to come save him. And I'm curious if this has anything to do with the fact that he is a Zoan awakening, and the Nika fruit is if the fruit has a will of its own, and that fruit willed it to be in a place where Luffy was so it could be eaten. This is an incredibly strong-willed fruit, and if Joy Boy was the only other character to have awakened it, the Nika fruit has crazy crazy limitations, because it's like if you are not the perfect fit for me, you will never be able to use this power. And even though Luffy is a perfect fit to wield the power, I think it still might be too much for Luffy, and he hasn't reached the clout of hockey mastery that he needs to be able to level out himself. Because I do think he's being slightly overwhelmed by his double fruit. It was a sad it was a sad fight. It was we use Luffy as a hype tool. That's a new one. Not a new one. He gets beat up every arc. He gets that was that's how we used Kaido. Kaido's like, who's your favorite character? I can beat him. And then there are all the characters that he can't beat that we had just haven't been introduced to yet. He's like, don't look at those. Excluding Garp. Garp definitely takes Kaido on the rooftop. Do I think old man Garp could beat Kaido? I I don't think old man Garp beats Kaido strictly on stamina. I think if if Garp can put Kaido down in like 5 or 6 punches, then he can do it. But if it's going to be not a high diff battle, but because Kaido is so durable, it's just going to take a while. The fight's going to take a while. Garp versus Kaido. I I do like Kaido Dragon, and Advanced Conquerors Hockey. Garp used Advanced Conquerors Hockey. Garp was able to put down rocks with rocks. Was put down by Garp and Roger, but that was in their prime. And old man old man Garp was taken down by the lesser Blackbeard crew. I don't know. I do think Kaido still wins, but I don't think it's. I think it's just because Kaido has crazy stamina. I am ashamed of Luffy. Luffy should. I was excited for this bout. I was hooting and hollering. I was like, "Let's go, Luffy!" I was like, Gear Fifth has been peak Luffy. I've loved Luffy with Gear Fifth and all the wacky stuff he's been doing. And I know people miss the seriousness of like rooftop Luffy, and I understand rooftop Luffy is. I appreciate that Luffy too. Rooftop Luffy was peak, but we are entering the end game. Luffy's got this new power up, and I think hopefully from this powwow with Gabon, Luffy will be able to like a switch. He'll be able to turn on and off. Where time to be goofy fun boy, and then it's time to slay the god of the world. I'm thinking. You guys can't see him. Here's this guy. So I've been scolding him one good. You better show up and show up well. I'm really excited to see you come back. You're trying to heal, regenerate yourself. Can he heal and regenerate? I don't know. Maybe momentarily. I hope momentarily. I'm really hoping that this emu fight is gonna culminate in Luffy getting back up, being at like 10% health, fighting. Loki showing back up at like 10% health, fighting. Hajruden showing up at like it doesn't matter, fighting. Usopp showing up, doing the crazy Usopp thing, fighting. And I just need an onslaught of characters. They don't. Oh, how could I forget? They fell to the underworld. They fell to the underworld, and before Imu can land like a finishing blow on Luffy, the metal on his sword is gonna start waving. It's gonna fly out of his hand, and then from the darkness, Eustace D. Kid is gonna walk in, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, the only person that's gonna kill Straw Hat Luffy is gonna be me," or he's gonna be like, "Oh, so this is what passes for emperors these days. I've spat on bigger fish. I don't know." And he's gonna farm his way up, and then he's gonna pull out that giant sword in Elbaph, and then he's gonna impale Imu into the Elbaph tree, and just like Luffy, and then they're all gonna dogpile him. I don't know. I'm just fan fictioning right now. I lost it a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I lost control. I do think Kid is gonna show up. I think a bunch of characters are gonna show up and not overwhelm Imu. There's a mass thing to do with hockey. Roger said it, not me. My goat said it, so I'm listening. Mass is a thing, so I think we just need bodies. Just need bodies to fight Imu, and just a bunch of people to go like and push him back and overwhelm him hockey style. We saw the hockey knot blast back all the Gorosei. I need Luffy to supply 50% of it, Loki to supply 40% of it, Usopp to supply 9% of it, and Hajruden to supply 1% of it. In that order. Oh no, I meant Kid to supply all 100% because he's a conqueror too. We just need a bunch of characters to push him hockey wise just to get him off of Elbaph. That's what I think is going to happen. Hopefully. as well as Sanji and Zoro winning their fights. They have to win their fights so that weakens HImu, so everyone can push them. That's all they need. Just push through the door. Huh. Sanji conquers hockey. That's another one. Ooh, I've been so happy to see Sanji getting conquerors. I knew he had it in him. He's the wing of the Pirate King, the future Pirate King. He's supposed to be a top dog. He's supposed to be one of them ones, and he has to have conquerors. Zoro and Luffy have conquerors. He had to have it, and we learned that Roger Rayleigh Gabon had it, and I'm like, you've got to have it. And I wouldn't be surprised if like one more Straw Hat gets it, because if we are paralleling the Roger Pirates, Odin had Conqueror's hockey as well. I believe so. I believe Odin was a conqueror, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we had one more character have conquerors. But yeah, Sanji, I believe it. He's just been through a bunch of stuff, and what was it? Uh, the Viz said it so well. His masculine. Let me pull it up. I want to see what was told to Sanji. He has to think of himself as a king. He has like some sort of emasculation issue. It's like he enjoys being beat down because he hates himself. And I'm like, oh no. So it's gonna be interesting to watch Sanji fight his demons as well as literally fighting a demon. Killingham's been fun, and Killingham just needs to summon some evil thing, pull out a nightmare for Sanji to piece up. So Sanji's like, "Oof, that feels better." Conqueror's hockey, and then we have to cut over to Zoro. Zoro has to put on the bandana. Imagine Summers is black or something. No, don't do that. That doesn't work. Summers has got to do something. Not that Summers has got to do something. I think Zoro will be able to beat Summers because even if Summers is stronger than him, I think Zoro just has a higher battle IQ, and Zoro also has a crazy amount of battle experience, which I assume Gabon does as well. But they've been cushioned way too much the Holy Knights, and I think that's going to show. It's already shown, really. But I'm really excited to see Sanji being a conqueror. He'll actually be the Black Leg Sanji. A lot of people are theorizing what his epithet's going to change to because Zoro's King of Hell. People think he's going to be like King of the Heavens or something. And I haven't thought. I thought like Cook King, and I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But yeah, I'm really excited for Sanji becoming a conqueror. What is next? Oh yes, Chopper and Robin and Biblo. What kind of lore are we gonna get? Yeah, I'm interested in the lore. Like, is it gonna be like Nika centric stuff? I hope so because this is the Giants worship Nika. The Giants worship Nika, and I'm really excited to learn more about him. I'm excited to see the differences between Nika is a destroyer, but he's also a liberator. Nika is like the god of laughter, liberation, and destruction. And I'm like, that's a crazy trinity. And paralleling Emu's omen, his omen seems to have a trinity as well. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but his omen it's like subjugation, something, something. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm interested to see if Chopper unveils some lore about Nika or about like the first world, maybe the origin of the world tree, maybe like the origin of Elbaph. Yeah, the origin of the world. Maybe we'll get a cool because we don't know this world's origin story, which is I think is kind of interesting. Like it wasn't. Did they have a big bang? Did someone put this Earth here? Was this a place where people already existed and they kind of built it? Like, did bigger things put it together and left it for the smaller people? Or I don't know. I just don't know. Like, will we get a? I'm trying to think of what could be revealed to us that answers one thing and gives us three more questions. And if we were shown a very light version of like LITE version of the origin of the One Piece world, it would be like, wow, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. And that's how I know Oda's a great writer. Oda gives you the mystery, and eventually, sometimes he'll answer the mystery. But when he answers it, you've already been given enough other content to go like, well, now I have questions about a couple other things, and I love that about One Piece. What else we got? Oh yes, I already talked about. I think everyone's going to tackle Emu. Usopp seems to be developing conquerors, not conquerors. Ha! I wouldn't be upset if he matched the energy. Usopp seems to be displaying observation hockey, and we haven't seen that from him since just Dressrosa, so that's exciting. It's pretty cool. And he's been able to give updates, and he can feel that they're distinctly different hockeys, and one's overwhelmingly powerful. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, Usopp, please, I need you to be on the front lines. I need Usopp to unironically become kind of like a co-captain figure of maybe a strategist, like their tactician. Make it Usopp. I think that kind of works, and that way we can still keep Usopp in the background, but Usopp can still have his flowers as just make him Sokka. He teeters a line of Sokka all the time. He's funny, but he does not prove his worth a lot of the time. I love Usopp, and Usopp is, I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I don't want him to die. I'm Team Usopp. I want him here. I want him to throw hands. I need him to throw hands. So he needs to develop his conquerors. He needs to develop his observation hockey, and he also needs to show out because this was supposed to be his arc, and everybody's been taking it from him. We were like, la di da di da. Frankie gets a power up. La di da di da. Sanji might be getting a power up. La di da di da. Chopper Forest God. La di da di da. And like it's ridiculous. So it is ridiculous. Well, what else is there? Oh yes, if Hajruden gonna do something, I really hope Hajruden gets something. Hajruden is talking big. He's like, "Oh, I'll take him down myself." In reference to Emu, the person that put Loki on his ass, put Luffy on a tree, and took Gaban's arm. Rest in peace. He's not dead yet. He's not gonna die. He's fine. It's fine. He's not gonna. Emu won't kill him. I hope. I pray. Uh, I got distracted. I really hope Hajruden does something. I hope Hajruden is also secretly a conqueror because he just hasn't developed it yet. Because he wants to stand with the big dogs, and if he wants to be here, and if he's going to insist on being here, he needs to be a conqueror, and he wants to be the king of all the giants. He wants everyone. He has grand ambitions. He just needs the will to match it. So Hajruden, please step up, and because we've already seen hockey closes the gap. If Loki's up here and Hajruden's down here, like literally, hockey could probably bump him up to like here, and Loki will still be like that right there. So Hajruden can have higher power level. We need Hajruden needs to show up and show out. We need him fighting with the big dogs. We need him slaying. We need him to beat up Emu. We need all the conquerors we can get. We need Yamato. We need Katakuri. Buggy can awaken conquerors. Freaking Mihawk's probably a conqueror. Who else? Well, Shanks is a conqueror. We know that. I'm curious if Ben Beckman's a conqueror because all of Roger's core people had conquerors. Who else? There are others. There are other conquerors. But for this there's a final war brewing. One Piece is headed towards its final act. We don't need to be on the same side. We just need to be against the government. So, as loosely of a side of an alliance everyone can make, we need to get all these characters and. Oh, thanks, man. I'm trying my best. Um, we need all these. We need all these conquerors. We need all the conquerors to show up because we have Holy Knights to fight now. The Holy Knight faction, crazy. We know there are supposedly like 12 or 13 of them, and that's insane. And we can't beat them without Conquerors Hockey. You need Conquerors Hockey to beat the Holy Knights, and they seem to have metal hearts, so there seems to be a loophole which would give Kid and which would give what's his face Law a place to be. Give Law a place to shine. He doesn't even need Conquerors. He just has a busted Devil Fruit. Ugh. We need a whole team. We need a big team, a bunch of bad guys, and Hajruden needs to be a part of those bunch of bad guys. What's in the heaven realm? An age-old question. don't know. What do you think's in the heaven realm? What do I think's in the heaven realm? The giant Goro says in the heaven realm. I don't know. I'm interested. Like I've been memeing about whenever God Valley was happening. I was memeing with my friends about whether or not Ace was going to show up, even though it like predates in like 40, 50 years. I think like 40, 50 years, yeah. And sorry. It was really funny seeing Ace just pops up places. Like we made it to Wano, we were doing our thing, and then Tom was like, "Yeah, like Ace," and you're like, "How do you know him?" And then Yamato's like, "Yeah, Ace," and I was like, "How do you know him?" And I was kind of expecting someone to be like, "Yeah, Ace has been to Egghead," and I'm also expecting someone to be like, "Yeah, Ace has been to Elbaph," and I was just taking that to the furthest extent, going, "Yeah, well, when's he showing up to Elbaph?" But what am I talking about? Oh, the Heaven Realm. I'm interested if once they get to the Heaven Realm, will will they be able to communicate with the dead? Not like maybe you have to be like on death's door or something to communicate with the dead. I don't know. I literally we haven't been told anything about the Heaven Realm. Oh, it's called the Astral Realm, I believe. But will they be able to? I don't know. What's gonna happen? Why is the Heaven Realm here? Oda, did you forget? I hope not. But did you forget? What else is there? Brooks flashback. I really enjoyed Brooks flashback. It was short. It was not that I don't think the short part really matters because I would have happily taken more God Valley. I appreciated that it was brief because it was interrupting a fight that I was really interested in. But you interrupted it with a character I love, so I'm like, fine, I'll watch your backstory, Brooke. It was fun to see the titles of the chapters. A lot of the titles of current One Piece chapters have been like lines in the chapter, which is really cool. Some people have said that it's lazy on Oda's part, but I don't particularly agree. He's all of this is coming from his imagination. So if the title of the chapter is something someone says, I think it probably fits. That gets the point across of, and that also probably helps him not repeat chapter titles because I'm sure there are a number of chapters where he's like, oh, this is the perfect title, but he's probably already done it before. So if contextually tying it to a specific thing that happens just in this chapter, that probably helps with the flow of making chapter titles. But I really liked in Brooks flashback. A bunch of the chapters had all the chapter titles were from his songs that he was singing, and we got to see poor Brooke in the trash turning up, and how he was like, "It's a miracle I'm not dead. My family's dead." I was like, "Oh well, okay." And then we got to meet King Leuven, and he was slumming it with him for a while because he was a prince. I said king, but he was a prince at the time. He got attached to Brooke, and then he was able to bring Brooke out of poverty and allow him to join school, learn how to play musical instruments. They're in the Kingdom of Music, Asperia. Brooke falls in love. It's a puppy love kind of thing. He falls in love with the prince's future queen, one of the knights on the guard. He falls in love with whatever her name is. I can't remember her name. Dang. Because she shows up and then she dies. He falls in love with her. He learns to fight and to play music. And whenever King Leuven gets married to Candel, Queen Candel, they have a child. A holy knight shows up, and it's a holy knight shows up, and then after he leaves, she's sick for a while, and then they have baby Princess Shuri. And I was like, that's messed up and dark. And that's how, tying back to me hearing people say there's no suspense. It was just alluded in the shonen manga that someone was assaulted, and I know it was against her will. So that feels suspenseful, and this is something that just happens in this world, and it's not something that happens to a character that I'm personally attached to, but it's still a messed up thing that's happening. I feel fairly attached to Candela. I would have been more attached if we spent more time with her. Didn't just kill her, but Oda kills moms. It's a thing. I don't know. But it was cool to see Brooke's relationship with Shuri as they grow up, and then Shuri has a crush on Brooke, and he's like, "Heck no, I like older ladies, and that's a great thing. I like my lady too." Um, it was fun to see the dynamic between the two of them, and she had the different colored eyes, and we find out that some strange fog rolls into Asperia, and it rots all the instruments away. And it's funny because that puts Brook in his element because he's like, I've played with trash all my life, and he's able to still make music, but it destroys and cripples the music industry, and they can't make their donation to the Celestial Dragons and their payment because this fog crippled them, and then they were ordered to give up 1,000 slaves. And the king's like, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to go to war. And Brook's like, aye, aye. And they go to war. Doesn't end well. And Brook's singing the entire time, which is really cool. And I'm like, wow, Brook is a damaged individual. But Brook's singing the entire time. And he's making his way back to the tower to save uh to save Shuri and King Leuven. And he gets there, and King Leuven has been killed. And Shuri has been Domi Reversi'd. I haven't even talked about Domi Reversi. Oh my gosh. Shuri's been Domi Reversi'd. And Emu's in the room, and a Holy Knight's there. And it's like, okay. And it's drawn very well. There's like a spiral going on behind Brook's head. And he's like, what's going on? And we find out he blocks it out from his memory afterwards. But Brook shows up and he's trying to plead with Shuri, and Shuri's like, I'm going with these people. They're my real family. They're my real father. This man's my real father. And Brook's like, no, Reuven raised you. I could tell you who your real father was. And then Saint Duro, the Holy Knight, you see his eyes, and he has the same eyes as Shuri, and you're like, oh no. And which confirms that he assaulted Queen Candel, and he showed up to take Shuri, and I was like, dang. And the worst part about Domi Reversi is the idea of having to kill your. Domi Reversi seems to make demonic versions of your entire persona, and you like wish, you lust for power, you lust for all these things. That's what it seems. It hasn't been told to us, but of all these characters getting Domi Reversi, they like want more power. They want more. And she is Domi Reversi, and a daughter kills the father, and I was like, that's messed up. And then almost kills Brook, and that hurts too. The whole flashback rocks, and I'm really attached. I'm much more attached to the Gunko Shuri plot line now. I was already kind of I felt like we needed to get back first because Gunko showed up and low dipped everybody, and I was like, what just happened? She just went, Jinbei, Brook hit each other, Usop, Nami, and I was like, oh gosh, like he powerized the group, and I was like, damn. But I'm much more attached to her now that she has ties to Brook, and I'm interested that we got to see more Brook's backstory. Almost said black story. Domi Reversi. I think this might be the last thing I talk about. Domi Reversi. A lot of people have been clowning about Domi Reversi online. I think it is such an incredible power for a ruler that has been in power for over 800 years, has the ability to not fight for themselves, but to force you to fight for them, to force you to fight and kill all of your loved ones. Like, that's a crazy ability to give to somebody. He literally doesn't have to leave his throne, and he makes a line. He says a line about that to Usopp about king doesn't like slay their hands with the mortal affairs or something like that, or a king shouldn't have to like raise their hand. And I'm like, that's true, and that's a hard line too. And then Usopp rage baits him, and then he shows up, and I was like, ooh, Usopp. Like, yeah, you're costing some limbs. Yeah, Usopp's rage bait has currently costed Gerd's fingers, Usopp's it's cost Gert's fingers. It's cost Stanson's leg. It's cost Scopper Gamon's arm. Usopp rage baiting Emu has cost lives already. Not lives, but body parts. I've been watching Naruto. I was never a big Naruto fan. My big three anime was Bleach. It was always Bleach at the start, but never a big Naruto fan. I've been watching it through. I'm enjoying it. I blocked it out, I guess. Of the third Hokage is jumped by Orochimaru and reanimations of the first and second Hokage, and I was like, oh my gosh! And watching that kind of nerf, because he was like, these are my mentors and best friends, or were his mentors and like loved ones. And Hiruzen starts crying, and then he can't fight for a little bit, and then Hiruzen locks in, and he starts piecing up the first and second Hokage, and then he's also trying to piece up Orochimaru. It was a crazy fight. I was like, Orochimaru, you're jumping this old man, and he did it with a smile on his face, and he almost lost. And then at the end, Hiruzen wasn't even able to finish Orochimaru, and it's because he loves Orochimaru. He raised Orochimaru. He couldn't bring himself to do it. So the whole Domi Reversi idea is like a stroke of genius, because people are like, just kill the characters and then you bring them back. The kind of will and fortitude it would take somebody. I know, even if clearly with my own two eyes I watched my loved one turn into a demon, I wouldn't be able, if it's almost like, yeah, just stab them, and then they'll come back. I, I don't know if I'd be able to do it. That's a crazy thing. They are my loved one. They irritate me, but I don't want to murder them. And that's the Domi Reversi, and that's a crazy thing on the psyche. And then you have to, like, once if you are able to get yourself out of that stoop, then that's just something you have to sit with, and it's like, oh my gosh. Domi Reversi is a really cool power, and I've been really enjoying it. And I'm curious why it didn't work on Luffy and Loki. Is it a devil fruit thing? Is it something more specific? There used to be, I guess there's still the theory of you can only be Domi Reversi on your homeland. There are all these logistics to Emu that I'm so interested in. Like, I'm aghast that we were able to introduce Emu, have him fight, have him use named attacks. He's doing so much crazy stuff, and I have no idea how he's doing any of it. He's like, oh, weapon's not working? Let me swap out with them. Blade that sucks out your life. And I'm like, what? That's in there? And oh, the Holy Knights are losing, the Holy Ropo are losing. Level up. Now you can take out Kaido. And I was like, whoa. I was like, how are you doing this? Oh, I have this big spell book. Let me pull out a Glock. And I'm like, Emu's just doing stuff. It's, oh no. I've been in love with Emu's power set. The whole Domi Reversi thing, peak, incredible, fantastic. I could go on, but I have yapped enough for me. Thank you anyone who popped in here. Some people popped in here, really appreciate that, and stuck around for a little while. But I'm glad to have this. I'm glad that if no one watches this, that's cool. And maybe someone's gonna watch this a while from now. I love to talk about One Piece, and I'm glad that I'm glad to be on this world as One Piece is coming out, and appreciating it. Also, it's what I can leech onto until Dragon Ball Super manga comes back, because that was my Dragon Ball Super manga. That was my thing, and then the great passed away, and then the hiatus. It has been a dry spell. But speaking of hiatuses, Kingdom Hearts 4 has been getting updates. Coco the World, that was cool. Riku, we get to play as like Mickey and Donald and Goofy. Riku shows up to Quadratum. Looks awesome. I'm really excited about Kingdom Hearts 4. But that will be all for today. Thank you so much for anyone who watches this, and I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm very glad. I'm glad to talk about One Piece, and I'm glad that anybody watches this video. Have a nice day.